This is the Almost Timely newsletter for the week of March 17th, 2024. Content authenticity statement. 90% of this week's newsletter is generated by me, the human. You'll see many examples of generative AI in the opening section. There's a link at the top of the newsletter to learn why this kind of disclosure is a good idea and might be required for anyone doing business in any capacity in the EU in the near future. What's on my mind this week? A large language model power technique. This week, I'm going to share with you one power technique that will dramatically increase your productivity and accuracy when using large language models like the ones that power ChatGPT and similar software. But before I delve into the technique itself, we need to go over some basic foundational aspects of transformer-based models, which is what powers things like ChatGPT. Large language models have two conceptual types of memory. This explanation I'm about to give you is mathematically incorrect. So know that from the beginning. If you go and read the relevant papers, the academic papers, and you do the calculus and linear algebra yourself, this is not how these models mechanically work under the hood. But for now, this is a good conceptual model for the non-mathematician to use to understand how these things work. Like you and me, language models have two kinds of memory, long-term and short-term. Long-term memory, also known by the fancy technical term latent space, is the statistical library of everything that the model was trained on. Now, to be clear, the original documents it was trained from are not in its long-term memory. Instead, a model's long-term memory is essentially a bunch of statistical associations. For example, it has seen, the phrase, "I pledge allegiance to the," so many times that it can predict with near mathematical certainty that the next word in that sentence should be the word flag, at least in North American English. In general, the long-term memory of a language model is very large and very diverse. It has seen everything from the most credentialed academic papers to your drunk uncle's Reddit shitposts, and it has learned language patterns from all of that. This, by the way, is why models have biases. The process of building that long-term memory is so computationally intensive and expensive that companies rarely do it. And when they do, there's usually a big announcement, like when GPT-4 came out, or when Claude 3 was announced, or Gemini 1.5 was announced. Lots of fanfare, big product release, because it's a big deal to crank one of these things out. This is also why models often warn that they only have knowledge up to a certain date, because that training process takes a lot of time and a lot of money. Now, that's the long-term memory. The short-term memory of a language model starts empty. It's the memory used during a conversation. So when you first open up your browser to Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT, there's literally nothing there, just a blank, empty window. The short-term memory is governed by some internal mechanics, but all models have a defined short-term memory. After you reach the limit of that memory, it starts forgetting the earliest parts of your conversation. Imagine a conversation like on a treadmill. Right? The words are appearing on a treadmill, and as that conversation goes on, the words at the end start to fall off. From the very beginning of the conversation, they start to fall off. Now, how short is this short-term memory? It depends. It depends on the model. For some models, like the open source Llama 2 model and the free versions of ChatGPT, the memory is as little as 2,200 words. Right? So you could have given it a prompt and discussed like one blog post, and it starts to forget. For other models, like Claude 3 Opus, the upcoming Google Gemini 1.5, it's as large as 700,000 words. Right? This is like 70,000 words here. So it's like 10 of these could be in the short-term memory. Big or small, eventually models do run out of memory and delete the earliest information in their memories, just goes away. Now, what makes these transformer-based language models, which is basically almost all language models these days, so different from their predecessors of years past is a technical concept called attention. Without getting into any details, the short conceptual summary is that attention means a model takes into account everything in its short-term memory to help predict what's going to say next. So everything in our prompt and everything it said and all the subsequent conversations, that is all used by the model for what it generates next. It's a really important point. I often call language models the smartest, most forgetful interns you've ever worked with. Their knowledge in the long-term memories, it's substantial, more than any human could know, but their short-term memories means they have to constantly be reminded of what they know, sometimes even in the space of a single conversation. So with that technical background, let's talk about this prompting power technique. It goes like this. What do you know about this topic? Yeah, that was kind of anticlimactic, wasn't it? Let's talk about what this means in practice so we can see the value of it. I'm going to use prompts for the RACE framework, which is a PDF. You can download it in the newsletter. No forms to fill out. Just grab the PDF. I'll start with a prompt that goes like this. You are an expert virologist and epidemiologist. You know viruses, viral replication, RNA, mRNA, protein structure, spike proteins, COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, COVID variants, and immune escape. Your first task is to explain the importance of position 13,468 and open reading frame 1AB of the SARS-CoV-2 virus and its significance for immunity. Now, that's a mouthful, right? But that fills the RACE framework: role, action, context, execution. Now, ChatGPT spits out a pretty generic response where it says, hey, this could be significant for immunity, and Gemini says pretty much the same things. Like, hey, the open reading frame 1AB is a long region inside the RNA that encodes a protein precursor and all that stuff. Very technical terms. But what's important to note is that both models have failed to mention the most salient fact about open reading frame 1AB and position 13,468. That's where a big mutation has occurred in the current COVID variant, JN1, right? It's what's causing all the issues right now. Now, if I take that same long prompt, but I end it with, what do you know about this topic? ChatGPT returns a much greater detailed response, right? It says, hey, here's what I think I know about this. There's certain part of the protein. There's something called RNA-dependent RNA polymerase, which is a mouthful. And Gemini does the same thing. Gemini comes into the chat with a lot more detail. Now, I started new chats with these prompts, so it's not like I'm reusing the older chat, but it comes out with just more because we've asked it what it knows. In both cases, the query that ends at asking it delivers more detailed results, better results. That alone is helpful, right? However, more important is they still don't know that that's the JN1 variant and why it's significant. So what does this technique tell us? Right out of the gate, it tells us that the long-term memory of these models does not have this information about this variant, which in turn means if we want to use generative AI for this topic, for this task, we will need to supply that information ourselves. It's not in the long-term memory of the model. This, by the way, is one of the top reasons why subject matter experts, human review, still matters a lot with generative AI, why you and I are still needed, because we need that subject matter expertise to interpret, hey, model, this is what you said you know. It's not enough, right? To the untrained eye, these responses might look fine. They got a lot of fancy words, but for anyone who's in virology or epidemiology, these are deficient responses. These are not expert responses. Now, if we were to proceed, then the short-term memory already has a lot of information in it, right? We've gotten basically a page's worth of information from long-term memory into short-term memory. And remember, this is why I said that transformers-based models take into account everything in the short-term memory, including what has just been said by itself. So by asking a model what it knows, we've effectively multiplied the length of the starting prompt by several times, right? We've gone and made that prompt much longer without having to write it out ourselves. Let's switch gears. Let's take something that requires a bit less current knowledge to further illustrate the point. Suppose you're a real estate agent and you want to write up a description of property for sale. And the property is 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, built in 1920. It's not in great condition. 6 rooms total, 4,700 square foot lot, $440,000 asking price, right? Built in 1920, has a 1,200 square foot lot, which is not very much. Does have city water and sewer. It's not a great part of the city, but in this particular example city, there's only 10 other houses in the entire city for sale, so it's a very hot market. Now, again, if we use the RACE framework to prompt it to write an appealing description for a real estate listing, we would say, you are a top-selling real estate agent. You know real estate, realtors, house sales, single-family homes, residential real estate, buyer's agent, seller's agent. Your first task as the seller's agent for a property is to write a compelling description of this house to attract buyers. And you give it the long list of details I just read out. Write the description. Now, what does ChatGPT come up with? It comes up with, welcome to a rare opportunity in one of the city's most dynamic real estate markets. This charming 2-bedroom, 1-bath bungalow. I love how charming is code for not in great condition. Built in 1920, offers a unique blend of historical character and modern potential. Nestled on a generous 4,700 square foot lot. That's not generous. That's a tiny lot. This home boasts a total of 1,100 square feet of living space, providing a cozy yet comfortable setting for its new owners. While it's in need of some love and care, its sturdy block foundation and durable shingle roof form the solid base for those looking to infuse their personal touch into a property. Okay. Not bad. Gemini's is very similar. Like, calling all ambitious home buyers and investors, seize the chance to own a piece of history in this charming 1920 bungalow situated on a desirable lot in a red-hot real estate market. And it goes on, of course, as well. These descriptions aren't bad, but the model didn't have much to work with in the prompt other than the facts we gave it. And we said you know how to do this task. And so what it came up with is kind of bland, kind of generic, kind of dry. I mean, it's not bad. It's better than nothing, but it's not great. Now, what if we changed that prompt? We said pretty much everything else, but instead of saying, hey, write the description, we say, what do you know about the best practices for writing compelling real estate property descriptions to attract the attention of buyers? Each model is going to go through and tell us those best practices, right? And basically, it's creating its own prompt. So ChatGPT says, start with a captivating opening, use descriptive language, focus on the lifestyle, use bullet points for features, avoid overused phrases, etc. Gemini comes up with very similar. The headline is king. A strong headline is critical. Your opening sentence is your hook. Highlight the things that matter. Paint a vivid picture with language. That's all things that we would want to prompt a model to know. Do we, when we sit down to use generative AI, do we want to sit down and type all that out? No, we don't. But we can just say, hey, what do you know about this topic? It does the writing for us. And now if we just continue the chat with these new descriptions, we say, now that you've recited your best practices, tell me, write the listing. ChatGPT now says, nestled on a spacious 470 square foot lot, this 1920 bungalow offers a unique opportunity for those looking to invest in a rapidly growing market. With 2 bedrooms, 1 full bath, and a total of 6 rooms, this property presents a canvas ready for your creative vision. Embrace the character of a home built in the roaring 20s, offering a glimpse into a bygone era. And it goes on for a bit more. Gemini, very similar, opening sentence, calling all DIY enthusiasts and investors. Seize the opportunity to transform this 1920s bungalow into your dream home in a sizzling hot market. Nestled on a spacious lot in a bustling neighborhood, this 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom bungalow awaits your creative vision. And it goes on as well. Qualitatively, the responses that it came up with are not just a little better, they're a lot better, right? They've got that descriptive language. They've got that fancy opening hook. They've got a good, better titles, better headlines. There's still definitely tweaking to be done to make them better listings, but you can see just how by including the basic best practices that we pulled from the model's long-term memory by asking it, what do you know about the best practices for writing real estate listings? We pulled that into the conversation and it has automatically made better results. Made better real estate listings. Now, if your firm has a specific style of writing, or you have a database of listings that sold really fast, you want to include that context as well to create exactly the kind of output you want. But you can see how you can dramatically improve the quality with that one sentence. What do you know about this topic? Or what do you know about the best practices for this topic? Asking a model what it knows about a topic is a fast way to tell whether or not the model is even capable of generating correct outputs. And if it's not, you know that you have to provide that data. And then preloading the conversation with rich information that substantially improves the output it generates. Add this into your generative AI workflow to make your work with language models so much better. Right? It's one sentence, but that one sentence can really make a big difference. Oh, and by the way, it works across models. Right? It's one of those techniques that works in every model that you use. Asking what it knows, very straightforward. All right, what else happened this week? What is this point to? This week, I did a reaction video to a talk I did in 2007 on podcast marketing. And it's in 4 parts. It's linked in the newsletter. It's a fun watch to go back and look at when my hair was not this color and when I didn't know anything about public speaking. I was not a great public speaker back then. And I go through and react to the video and point out the things that I'm doing wrong. So if you want to have some fun, that was something that happened this week on the channel. Let's look at jobs this week. We have brand ambassador at Build Magazine, content strategist at GrowGetter, data science specialist at eTeam, digital marketing analyst at the Ironman Group. Excuse me. Digital performance analyst for site marketing campaigns at London Town Inc., director of content at Business Class, director of data science at S&P Global, senior data scientist at Real Estate from Anywhere, senior revenue operations manager at Kenio, social media editor and content creator at Begin, and senior data scientist at Visionaire Partners. In other news this week, we have the latest trend on TikTok is the silent review, which is very amusing. A really good piece by Rand Fishkin over on SparkToro about who sends traffic on the web and how much. Really good, well-researched piece. Spoiler alert, it's Google. It is Google's game like 70% of the time. So if you're not doing what Google says, you're not going to succeed, at least with your online marketing. Google also confirmed high-quality content is crawled more often, and the latest update, they are going after AI-generated spam. Now, it's really important to clarify. They're not going after all AI-generated content. They are going after low-quality AI-generated content. So that's an important distinction to take into account there. Wired is mentioning that regulators need AI expertise and can't afford it, so therefore don't have it, so they're not doing as good a job as they could be. If you work at a regulatory agency, a federal agency in the USA, and I'm limiting this to the USA because that's where I live. I know the USA better. And you want to, if you have questions about AI, hit me up. I mean, I will do my civic duty and try to answer your questions as best as I can. Because yeah, I want people who are in the business of making and enforcing regulations to know what AI is actually capable of. Maybe we should do like a 45-minute webinar or something for government officials, just so that you know what's what and what's real and what's hype. What do you, by the way, if you like that idea, leave a message in the comments if you are a government official, and that could be for any government. In other things, this week I set up Servio Media Server on my MacBook so that I could watch content that's stored on like external hard drives on my other devices. It's been working great around the house, really enjoying that. And Figure One, which is a robot that is plugged into OpenAI's API, is making waves. It is not sentient. It is not self-aware. It does sound good. It looks good, but it is not the doomsday thing that a lot of people are pointing out. So, upcoming events. In just a couple weeks, I'll be headed to Nashville for Lab Products Association, their event, followed by the Society for Marketing Professional Services here in Boston, and then again in Los Angeles. Also headed to Melbourne for the Australian Food and Grocery Council. Then Cleveland for the Marketing AI Conference, and then here back to Boston in the Marketing Profs B2B Forum. So lots of events coming up, and there's more on the way, just working on getting all the paperwork squared away for that. That is going to do it for this week's episode. I hope that you enjoyed it and found some benefit to it. I hope you add that simple sentence. What do you know about this topic? Or what are the best practices for this topic? I hope you add that into your prompting to get better results from generative AI, from language models. Thanks to everyone who voted in last week's poll. I've got a lot of really good, helpful information that we're going to use to make some more content. But you can already see, just in this issue, the example I used was a real estate example because you were kind enough to vote. So we're going to go through that list when examples present themselves. So thank you for that, and I will talk to you next time. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you want to know when new videos are available, hit the bell button to be notified as soon as new content is live.